So tell me, when was the last time you read or viewed a performance of Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun? The poetic title grabs my attention and teases my mind. My Creole ear hears a raisin, and instantly my mind starts translating raising, as in the life process of raising children under duress. So, what's a raisin? I ask my freshman class. Each semester I ask the same question every time we read the play. Isn't the sun already at the center of the experience? The experience of the dried fruit that becomes a raisin? So tell me, how or why is this already dried fruit still in the sun, and for how long? Time is already an issue here. Time and circumstance. Always, this is a history of African American people, a history that is ever present. In 1951, when Langston Hughes wrote his poem Harlem, he was prodding at a sore that lay at the heart of the American soul. He asked, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Inspired by this poem, Hansberry wrote her play A Raisin in the Sun, and it debuted in 1959. As the first play by an African American woman ever produced on Broadway, its debut made history in its own right. Equally important, it made another first in history as the play brought African American people into the theater and onto the stage. Time and circumstance then was meeting time and circumstance anew as the play made history. Today, 60, maybe 70 years later, as we watch the performance of the play in live theater, or maybe on the screen of our minds, we confront history again. We wonder whether the present reality finds Hansberry's raisin still lying dried up in the sun all these decades later. And this, despite the advancements of modern civil rights laws. Undeniably, the youngers are still with us, still struggling to make ends meet, to get a good college education for their children that will open doors to them, to get decent jobs, decent housing for the family. For them, the all-American dream exists as a runny sore. Yet when I ask my class to think about Walter's character, the average student overlooks his pain and sees at first glance the male pride and arrogance, as some put it. Few recognize readily that Walter's hurting on the inside because of the historical stone of racial prejudice, a stone over which he stumbles at every turn. Ironically, the hurt pours out in his speech with those closest to him. Remember the poignant scene with the scrambled eggs in Act 1, Scene 1? Here he vents his frustration as he thinks his wife is brushing him off. The sore of his dreams festering on the inside. Listen to what Walter says to her. Man say to his woman, I got me a dream. His woman says, eat your eggs. Man say, I got to take hold of this here world, baby. And the woman will say, eat your eggs and go to work. Man say, I got to change my life. I'm choking to death, baby. And this woman say, your eggs is getting cold. Did you laugh when you first saw the play? Can you still laugh even now? All Ruth knows is that, like Mama and all the mamas before her, a woman must bend her shoulder to the wheel, her spine an iron rod, and help bring in an income for the family. Her dismay and that of Mama at Walter's insistent struggle to take the heat of the sun off his dream is marked later in the scene when Walter's compulsion to escape takes center stage. And this we see in the dialogue with Mama. But before we go there, we need to take a moment to understand the significance of that scene. We must first recognize that Walter, like his sister Benita, stands out in contrast to the matriarchal head of family, Mama, because he and Benita are first of all American, a younger generation of African Americans. They hold the American dream close to their chest. Benita yearns for a future built on sound educational opportunities. She can be a doctor, one who heals others. If the family can come up with the college tuition, and she's willing to work hard for her dream. Walter's circumstance, however, puts that dream way out of his way. For African males of his generation, first had to consider getting a good paying job to help the family. They grew up as laborers and servants to the white communities, at best becoming chauffeurs driving the privileged around in their big cars. Yet, and I say yet, Walter is still able to dream. He can be a businessman, like the young, rich, white entrepreneurs sitting down at lunch in the downtown restaurants that he passes every day. Their presence tells him he can be successful. He can own his own liquor store, the only small business venture available to him at this time. He can take care of his family's financial needs. If only he had the money to make this investment. Can you see it? The dream at his fingertips, it's driving him crazy. He tries to explain his distress to Mama. Listen as he speaks to her quietly. And he says, sometimes it's like I can see the future stretched out in front of me, just plain as day. The future, Mama, hanging over there at the edge of my days, just waiting for me. A big, looming, blank space full of nothing, just waiting for me. Ask yourself, what dreams has Walter had to let go to reach this point of utter despair? The play asked its original audiences to believe that they were confronting life exactly as it was happening, and they were being invited to consider issues of immediate consequence. It asked of them the same as Hughes Harlem asks of his readers. What happens to a dream deferred? In the last telling lines of Hughes's poem, the poetic persona responds, maybe it just sags like a heavy load? Or does it explode? Yes, as we watch the performance of Hansberry's play again, we might ask ourselves, how many more dreams must the Walters of today's world let go before they explode? We must ask ourselves and dare to make a difference.